So I have been working on developing my buckle bracelets. Intro. So I've been doing a few tests on the design of my bracelet for my buckles, like for the leather part. So I was trying to get something a bit more interesting than the straight piece. This is my original one, obviously. And with the power of video editing, I'm going to show you some pictures because it's easier to show you pictures than me showing you up here because you can't really see. So the first thing I tried to do was get the sort of shoulder armor segmentation you can see. I'll try and shine up a picture of what I mean on top of the other picture. And so I was trying to get layers of leather that look like the shoulder of the armor. However, because the leather has to then go back through the buckle, I ended up squashing the first piece of leather I put in. So that one didn't really work out the way I wanted to. It just sort of poked out the sides, like a bit of a leaf type thing, really. And that's not really the look I was going for. The leather just kind of squashed the extra bit of leather down, and yeah, I just didn't like that. So the next one I moved on was back to more of the shape that I was using with the thicker designs I was doing. This sort of shape that I drew out from Armour. It's Armour inspired. Obviously I took the buckle off this because I'm not using it. So I went back to that shape and it worked quite well. I had to cut out two shapes to trap the buckle between, or I thought I did. And then I had figured out I'd have to cut through both layers of the leather so that the strap could come back through, actually go through the buckle and fasten up properly. However, the same sort of problem exists. I've had to have, as you see on this picture, sewn in the same places where the buckle would come through, so it sort of overhangs the same each side to give it a more symmetrical look. And depending how small your wrist is, then the strap would come over and maybe flop around on top of the design anyway, which, although it works, isn't exactly again what I was looking for, annoyingly. And I felt like the shape was a bit too long, like the points weren't anywhere really near the buckle, and so it just felt a bit drawn out, as you can see on the next picture. I used the same shape, but this time I didn't actually put a piece of paper to secure the back of it. It's just the thickness of the paper holding the buckle on. Again, same problem with how long it was, but it actually worked really well, this. I know one side would not have the shape properly, where the buckle turns into the strap. Maybe I could have smoothed that out a bit. And the strap would still have to come through one side of the leather, as you can see in that picture. But it worked quite well, and there wasn't too much distortion, that's a word, going on. It's still a bit asymmetrical, or not symmetrical even, because one side the leather would still poke out, whereas one side the leather's all attached and would wrap around your wrist. So again, it wasn't ideal, but I thought it was quite interesting the way I didn't have to put the leather on the back to hold the buckle in place. So I tried a much smaller version of it, as you can see here. But with these ones, I kind of got the feeling that they looked a bit like a bat signal. And that's really not what I was aiming for. But I still tried it on my wrist, you can see here, and it still worked, even though I was using paper. And although I thought it looked a bit interesting, I can't get over seeing the bat signal, and I really didn't want to see that. I also thought the points that was made from leather, obviously leather's a bit harder than paper, it might get a bit annoying when you bend your hand. So I ended up doing a more broad spearhead design, which again worked well, but still kind of looks like a weird flower / Batman thing going on, and I really didn't like that. So I did do something in the end, and it might, I don't know whether everyone will agree with me, but I ended up going for a normal strap. I felt like the ones I've been trying at the moment just take away from the actual texture of the buckle. It's a bit like these thicker ones, it's fighting for attention, and I don't really want that. I want most of the attention to be on the buckle, and the strap's just sort of like a vessel, but just to carry for my buckle, really. So, and I really like the simplicity of the strap. It keeps it more sort of, it's still armor related because they had obviously straps doing up their armor, and it was the buckle that was more ornate. They didn't really do much with the straps. They were just, you know, very just did their job. That was it. I did, however, make this one slightly different to the first one I did. For instance, I made a much smaller bit to hold the leather, the strap when it goes through the buckle. I made this bit a lot thinner than on this one. I hope you can see that. It's about half the size. Not only that, this whole strap's a little bit smaller. It's about 8.5 inches long, the small one. And I also didn't do quite as much sewing. I just did lines going down rather than all the way around to hold it down, which works well and is a lot quicker. Which will be important in my next video, but I'll get to that. And another thing I did different to this was I stained the inside of the leather as well, compared to the very tanned one on my original. So to keep this video short, because I'm sure I've rambled on quite a long time, do you think I made the right decision? Did you prefer one of the other designs I came up with? Do you think there's anything else I could maybe look into at the moment? I still have a few ideas rattling around my head, but at the moment the plain strap for me is working the best. So yes, do you agree with that? Tell me what you think about those ideas I was having, whether you think I should follow them up. It'd be really interesting to know what people prefer. Just to quickly talk about my next video, which I already have planned, I'm actually going to be doing a video on how something like this, or at least how I was taught / do price something like this up. How do we work out the price of things? And hopefully that will interest quite a few of you. A lot of people don't realize the amount of time that goes into making or even designing something like this. It's kind of a fine line where you need to charge a certain amount, but also feel like maybe you shouldn't because it seems like a lot of money. But then, for instance, these sort of things are one-offs. But that video is coming up later. Hopefully it'll be interesting for you. So again, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of my other designs, what you think of the one I came up with. Let me know down below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, comments, all that fun and jazz. And to keep the video short, I'll leave it there. Sparks out. With this one, I didn't leave the bubble of silver or the sprue pouring because it was quite big, but I did leave it still rough where I cut it off because I really like the idea of seeing sort of how the piece is made.